Hi, and welcome to another edition of Newsmakers Journal of the Plague Year. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, December 4th, and this, for those keeping track at home, is the 100th episode of Newsmakers Journal of the Plague Year. It began since the pandemic, and we are pleased to welcome our two most frequent guests, Delaney Smith of The Independent and Josh Molina, who writes for Newshawk. Thank you all for coming. I hope you had a nice holiday, and not much of a holiday to come, though, Delaney. Uh, Obviously, the death toll from the pandemic is just extraordinary. We're like 2,500 people a day nationally. And here in California, it's a new week, so we have a new set of regulations from French Laundry Newsom. Can you explain what it is he has done and how this will affect us in Santa Barbara County?
Yeah, okay. So Newsom took the state of California and he divided it into 5 different regions. Santa Barbara County falls under the Southern California region, even though we're not in Southern California. And the way that this works is by region, if the ICU capacity level falls below 15%, then that entire region then goes into a shutdown. And so we're not currently in that shutdown yet in Santa Barbara, although there's a lot of confusion. Some people think that we already are. I think that the school district even sent out a message saying such, but we're not quite yet. But what Newsom did say yesterday at his announcement was that we are looking like by the end of the next week that we will actually fall below that 15%. So we can expect
in Southern California.
Exactly. We as in Southern California, Santa Barbara County, you can expect within the next week, we're going to be getting that shutdown. And what that shutdown means is that there's no non-essential travel at all. Right now, currently, it's only between like 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. That it's turned off, but this will be all of the time. You can only travel for essential reasons. It means that personal care services, hair salons, barbershops, those will all be closed down completely, not even outside.
And what about restaurants?
Restaurants can stay open outside. They just cannot do indoor dining. Retail can even stay open as long as it's only 25% capacity. Schools that already had waivers can continue, but if you didn't have a waiver up until this point, then there's no chance at all.
I want to talk about that in some depth. And what about houses of worship, which has turned into since the U.S. Supreme Court said Governor Cuomo in New York overstepped his authority in shutting them down. What's the rule on that, or what would be the rule on that?
To be honest, Jerry, I actually don't know what the latest is. I know that our county sent a letter to the governor asking him to rescind the order that churches had to be outdoors only. I don't know if the governor actually said that's fine or not. I would assume he did not. Yeah, he did not. That would be my guess. But our county did try to fight that one.
So just so I understand, so even though I read somewhere this morning, I think 57% of the ICU beds in Santa Barbara County are currently occupied, about half of which are COVID patients, or a third, something like that. So if LA County, city of LA, whatever, which has a much higher
I actually checked LA's ICU capacity and they're at 23%. So yes, but it's an average of all of the counties within the Southern California region. So just because Santa Barbara County has more ICU capacity, that doesn't matter, because now it's just not based on Santa Barbara County. It's this entire Southern California region, which is pretty massive if you look at the map. It takes up like the whole bottom section of the map.
It's like Sacramento gets its own thing, and Northern California and the Bay Area. So there's 3, sort of.
There's 3 smaller ones, and then we just have this big fat section of the map.
The valley over there, and then there's Southern California. All right, Josh. Well, I'm looking forward to reading Bill McFadden's latest rant on this one. But meanwhile, this has really confused, I think, parents and school officials and so on and so forth. And both the Santa Barbara School Board and the Goleta School Board met this week to discuss, what this means and whether they're going to go ahead and try to reopen classes in January. How did that all fall out? What was the break? How did that break out?
So Santa Barbara Unified and Goleta Union, those are the two largest school districts, public schools, and neither one of them are open to in-person classes for a majority of students. They have open cohorts, which have been pretty successful, as they describe it, for target population. So there are some kids who are going to school, but we're talking about the majority. And so what happened was they missed their chance to open when things were in the red tier. And the idea was that at that time, things were trending toward orange. And so they were not necessarily ready to open, but they were moving in that direction. They had some personnel that they needed to hire. They had to make some internal infrastructure planning adjustments. And so they were ready to open, and they didn't think they would need a waiver because for some reason a month ago, they didn't think it would get this bad, even though everybody in the world knew that come December and January, it was going to get worse. So they decided that they were going to open January 11th,
Both
and then
Goleta and Santa Barbara, correct?
For Santa Barbara Unified, right? And Goleta was also thinking they would open sometime, maybe December, but most likely January. All of a sudden, we are in the purple tier, and we're not like at the bottom of the purple tier. We're like at the top of the purple tier. I mean, I don't know if there's a tier after that, but it's very deep into purple. And so now they're like, whoa, maybe we should apply for a waiver to open. So it's bad timing because as one of the Goleta Union School Board members said, it might have been Sholeh Jahangir saying, we were so against opening in purple a month ago. We were thinking we're only going to open in orange. And now we're talking about applying for a waiver in purple. And so they've missed their chance. What happened this week was, do we want to apply for a waiver? Now, the state is not going to review any waivers at this time because our case count is higher than the threshold in the purple zone. It's something like if it's higher than 14 COVID-19 cases on average for a 7-day period, if it's above 14, then they will not review waivers. And it was at like 14.1 as of Tuesday and Wednesday. And so they're deciding, should we have a waiver ready to go once we drop below that threshold? And so it got all tangled because
But does that 14 still, is that still the marker, or is the marker this ICU thing now?
Two different things, Jerry.
For school, sorry, Delaney, you can go ahead.
You can explain, Josh, it was your turn, but two totally different things.
So schools obviously are very aware of the ICU threshold, and that now it's happening nationally. But their specific concern is this 14 case threshold. If it drops below that, they can apply for a waiver. If it's above that, they cannot. And
maybe we should define what a waiver is really quick, just for people listening.
That would be good, yeah.
A waiver allows elementary only to reopen. So normally in red or better tiers, high school, middle school, elementary school, they can all reopen. But when you're in the purple tier, like we are right now, the only possible chance of any opening is just elementary opening, and it's only through these waivers that you would apply to with the state. And like Josh just said, because we're at that over 14 threshold, they're not even going to accept waivers, which means there are zero chances for Santa Barbara Unified or Goleta to reopen in person as of right now.
And so, as I recall, Santa Barbara was all set to open in January. So
and our waivers completely filled out and ready. And that was kind of why this meeting earlier this week on Tuesday was totally moot, because they had this special meeting set up so they could vote on, are we going to submit this waiver that was already completed, they've been working on, or not. And then they arrived at the meeting. It actually was really interesting to me because I don't think that there is any kind of liaison between the district and what goes on at public health, because I even knew this from covering county earlier in the day. But the whole school board was totally blindsided, had no idea at the beginning of the meeting that they were not going to be able to actually vote on this topic. And that was the whole point of the meeting in the first place.
So the only difference is that Santa Barbara has the waiver ready to go and Goleta does not, Josh? Is that?
Yeah, Santa Barbara has the waiver done. Staff has prepared the waiver. The board said, okay, whenever it drops below 14, let's have another meeting and decide whether to actually hit send with the waiver. Goleta said, no, we're not going to do a waiver. We're not going to prepare a waiver. We don't care. We don't want to open in purple. A majority of them said that. It would send a bad message to everybody when nationally, locally, we're about to enter into this lockdown, most likely. And then we're going to say, please open our schools. Why would we even do that? Let's just wait for this to play out. And let's get back to the red. Maybe at the very bottom of purple, we'll think about a waiver. Now, Luz Reyes Martin was the only school board member who was pushing for, let's apply, let's get the waiver ready and have it ready to go once we drop so we don't lose any time. Her perspective was that let's separate everything that's going on and let's remember what a lot of our low-income Latino students are dealing with is the fact that they need to be in school because a lot of parents have multiple jobs. She had said sometimes people are leaving their kids alone or with a neighbor or something like that. So she is sort of focused on that. However, the timing is bad because while that argument is super compelling, everywhere around us, everybody's kind of going into lockdown. So the concern of the Goleta board was, why are we going to try to do this at the worst possible time now?
And when does vacation start? In a week or 2 weeks?
I don't know, 2 weeks, I think. Yeah.
You're a parent.
What's that?
When does it start?
I don't know, probably 2 weeks, Delaney, but I don't have it on my calendar.
Well, okay. So it's totally moot for December, but I mean, I'm curious in what each of you sort of see happening in January, because everything I read, this, surge is going to be going on, perhaps worse in January because, people who do travel for the holidays and so on. And
Oh yeah.
So are we looking at, once again, probably not in January, probably not in February?
I would think so. I don't think anyone from either district wants to say that or think that because it doesn't sound very hopeful. But I mean, if you just look at the facts, yeah, it would not be possible for them to reopen in January, really.
And obviously the lockdown will help. But then we have a period after that where the case count is going to drop. And that's about the time when they'll probably be deciding to apply for a waiver. But those discussions, I mean, that's not going to happen until January, February.
And we also have to factor in, though, we haven't talked at all. The other bigger news this week was about vaccines.
The vaccine.
And that they are coming right in time.
Let me just close on this because I just want to be sure. So to circle back where we started, the whole ICU shut everything down doesn't have really any relevance in terms of schools, except to the extent that it might affect the small number of students who are now in cohorts or pods or whatever who have gone back. Is that correct?
As Delaney knows more about this than I do, but as I understand it, those pods and those cohorts will stay open no matter what. I don't think anything ordered by Newsom, if they opened already, will affect that. And in fact, those are working really well. And so as they talk about bringing kids back, they're really trying to grow that small cohort model to affect as many kids as possible. So these kids who are really struggling with at-home learning, let's make schools for them. And for those who can't, maybe let's figure out a way to continue their remote learning. So that cohort model is working well because it's small numbers. But I don't think that's going to stop if we go into a stay-at-home order.
That's not going to stop, Josh. You're right. It's not going to stop. And I get questions. I just thought I'd put it out there all the time where people ask, why do these ones get to continue? Are they just magically safe from COVID? And then Santa Barbara Unified and Goleta aren't. The reasoning behind it is that it disrupts children's education when they're thrown back and forth over and over between distance, in person, distance, in person, and it's going to mess with their grades and it's going to mess with their well-being. So the point is once you're in, you're in. The issue here is, again, like Josh said, Goleta and Santa Barbara missed their opportunity, and so they're just not in.
All right, and I do have one more question on that. So where's the teachers union on all this? They you know, they're overall general, not to overgeneralize, but it's basically whoa, slow down. So I assume that has not changed. If anything, it's being pushed further out.
That has not changed. They didn't really get to speak at this last meeting because it was a special meeting, but I can imagine that if they did, that would be the sentiment.
All right.
In Goleta, quickly, Donna Lewis, the superintendent, said that up to 15 teachers are going to retire or resign early because if they're forced to go back in purple, because they're concerned about their health, their family members' health. And so the other problem with Goleta was if we lose another 15 teachers, we need time to hire them. And as it turns out, the pool to hire teachers is not very big right now. So that was another factor. They some of them don't want to go back in purple. And the survey that they talked about, there was a much higher rate of teachers who saying, no, we don't want to go back than parents.
All right, Delaney, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You're just starting to talk about the vaccine, and I know you did a piece on kind of where things stand for Santa Barbara on that. What's the latest?
Yeah, so this is really going to change the trajectory of how we're measuring the metrics. What the tiered system might not even look the same in the next couple months because our vaccines are rolling in really quickly and they're doing them in phases. And at least in Santa Barbara County, I can't speak to nationally, but in Santa Barbara County, health professionals and first responders are going to be the first group to get it, and they're getting it. It's expected to be this month, within the next couple of weeks.
Is this the Pfizer vaccine, or do we know which vaccine?
This is the Pfizer one, yes. And we have 20,000 medical professionals and 2,000 first responders countywide that they estimate will be getting this vaccine this month in December. And then the second group of people are going to be those who live in congregate living, who are elderly, who have immunocompromised systems. And those people are going to get it by like the second half of December, early January. And then the rest of the general population, they're expected to phase in the vaccine by mid-March.
But there are two injections, are there not?
That's what I heard. They didn't get into that at the meeting, but yes, the way they put it was just that people would be vaccinated by this month.
Yeah. I think the second one comes 2 or 3 weeks after the first one, and you have to get both. There's a very cool thing, by the way, on the New York Times website today, which is accessible and free for everyone. It's a graphic, a computer graphic, and you answer like 3 or 4 questions about your age and stuff like that, and then it tells you where you are in line, what county you're in and stuff to get it. And
that's cool.
Have a little picture of the line, and your spot is here.
What's it called?
I don't know. I'll send it to you, but cool. I'll put it in the blog post too if people want to check it out. It's
what number are you, Jerry?
I'm about 239,000 in Santa Barbara County, so I'm about halfway, which means you two are really screwed because I can't. I'm not allowed to go outside. But I think 230,000, something like that. So there's as you say, there's a lot of health workers. There's a lot of people in nursing homes, congregate living.
But I mean, it's all coming within the next couple months here. So it's really coming in the nick of time. Just as this wave is really kind of hitting us hard, we're also getting vaccines. So it's going to change the way we measure stuff. You know, measuring stuff by testing positivity will be different when the vaccine is widely available in March. It's
Oh, good. It'll get more complicated then.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that. All right. Anything else on COVID before we switch topics that we should know? It's just I mean,
I think that was it.
Be really, really careful now because it is out there and it is spreading, even in Santa Barbara County, where all of our armchair epidemiologists have warned us not to take any notice of what Gavin says.
Don't worry, Jerry. You can still eat outside on State Street, so that's something to be positive about.
Oh, good. I'll look forward to that. All right. So, Josh, City Hall still churning on despite the fact of the global pandemic. So they're going to redo Ortega Park, right? Which I guess is a good thing because there have been a lot of problems over there, as we all know. But in the middle of it, there are these murals there, and I know Alejandra Gutierrez has been trying to save them. A lot of other people, and they've been all over the lot on this. What's the latest on that?
Well, the city embarked on this Ortega Park master plan, and basically they want to upgrade the park and put in a lot of new elements, new bathrooms, new pool, new hardscape, turf fields. They want to basically clean up Ortega Park. And Ortega Park has been a part of that community, the east side, the neighborhood for generations. When I was a kid, I lived on the east side. I used to go to Ortega Park. It's true like neighborhood park. But of course, right, everything's got to be fixed. There's also an element of illegal drug activity that takes place there, some homelessness, some drinking. And this has gone on for a long time. You know, Jason Dominguez, former council member, famously, would approach these individuals and get into little spats with them. So the city is like, let's try to go in there and improve it. As part of that renovation, they didn't really think too much about these murals. These murals were created in 1979 and after by a lot of youth artists, and Manuel Unzueta, who's a former teacher at City College and who is a well-known artist around town, and other just community members. These are Mexican, Aztec, Chicano, Latinx type art murals, and they're pretty, they're really good. They're really compelling. They're really telling. They tell the story of, the farm worker experience, and then there's a little bit of, historical Aztec imagery as well. And so they mean something to the community. The city decided that they were going to not be able to keep these murals, that they would need to relocate them. Maybe they could be
Rec and Parks.
Parks and Recreation Department, Jill Zachary, executive director. She said that they were created on concrete and stucco, so they can't be preserved, although they could be recreated, or maybe they could be moved. And so that kind of freaked out Alejandra Gutierrez, Mark Alvarado, some other people, Manuel Unzueta, some people in the community. And so they started asking questions, and then they held a meeting and like to discuss the future of the art. And then, there's media attention on it. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, let's wait, let's pause. Let's decide to think about what we can do with those murals. So it's like a good example of neighborhood activism, sunshine, media attention. Both Newshawk and Independent covered it. And all of a sudden the Parks and Recreation Department is like, whoa, we probably should figure out a way to keep these things. So that's where they're at right now. We don't know what that's going to entail, but now they're going to have another meeting. They were going to be on the Planning Commission on Thursday. They pulled it, which is kind of rare and kind of cool in terms of like.
Yeah, and if you think about it, the pushback wouldn't have happened without district elections. I mean, this is a great example of a district elections issue that means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, Alejandra learned how to swim in the pool. Her father created murals at the pool. This is something where you see a direct connection to somebody who grew up in that community representing that district.
All right. Real quick, Delaney, I know Josh can't talk about this because he's an employee of City College, but you had a piece about how they're rewriting the rules about students and faculty? What's the bottom line on that?
Yeah, well, they're still in the middle of doing this. It hasn't been set in stone yet, but they are basically creating a policy in the absence of one around student and teacher consensual relationships. And the bottom line rule, basically, it's pretty strict, and at least right now, that it's still draft phase. But in draft phase, it is no fraternization. So that means don't get a cup of coffee with your teacher. That means, yeah, it's and most community colleges don't have any kind of policy like this. So
Where's this coming from? Is it coming from the board, or is it coming from the administration?
It's coming from the administration, and it's coming after several incidents. So the teacher that I wrote about was not the first one. It's just the most recent one in recent years, but there's been a handful of controversies surrounding teacher-student relationships that were inappropriate. And this was kind of the final one, and it sparked the change.
Is there going to be pushback from the students on that? I mean,
honestly, students on the community college level don't tend to be as, I mean, they do in rare instances, but in general, students at the community college level aren't as involved with decisions like this at the college. I would highly doubt any students are even aware of it, to be honest.
All right. Okay. And then one more thing. Last time we talked about the e-bikes and the controversy over that. And I blame myself. We really messed up on talking about the helmets. Helmets are required on those bikes for anybody under 18 or any other bike. And are highly recommended by others. Josh, as you know, California Vehicle Code 21212 says that, and thanks to Mary Turley for that. And then our good friend, council member Mike Jordan, decided we shouldn't have used the word controversial to describe the e-bike program, because he decided it was all right or something. What's his big beef? What's his problem?
If I had $1 for every time a source told me not to use the word controversial in a story, I'd be living in a luxury pad like
well, we wouldn't have any. We'd be out of business. I tried to explain to the councilman, who's as usual, as courteous and civil as could possibly be, with his beefs about things, that anytime there's a conflict, that represents a controversy as well. But yeah. All right, so Josh, go ahead.
Quickly, the thing about the e-bikes, here's another thing where the city botched something, okay? They proposed these e-bikes, everybody's talking about it, they're gonna do this temporary pilot program, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere at the Planning Commission, they wanna put in these 3 9-foot tall solar powered kiosks that never appeared at HLC, ABR, City Council, just out of nowhere. City said that they didn't know they had to do that because B-Cycle thought they were going to connect to electricity in the ground, and the city's like, this is Cabrillo Boulevard. We don't have that. So that went to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission was sort of like, what the heck is this? Okay, what is going on? They approved it. It was 4-2. It was controversial. I don't know how a member of the city council could not be upset that they didn't know about this when it went before them. It seems like that's like a fundamental thing. Like, I should have known about this before I voted on it. So it came later. Anna Marie Gott has filed an appeal now against this.
Josh, you would agree with me, would you not, that Council Member Jordan really was most responsible for the botching and the controversy?
Oh, man. These are my sources, Jerry. I'm not going to say that. No.
No, okay, I'll say. All right. Delaney, what are you working on for next time?
I'm actually working on a story about Judge Anderley's most recent ruling. It's a cannabis issue between the Coalition of Responsible Cannabis and Busy Bee Organics Farms. So far, it's in favor of cannabis. I'll just kind of leave it at that, but it's going to be beefy.
All right, and Josh, you got a podcast up with what's his name? Supervisor
Obscure.
Williams. Williams, is that it? Wilson? No.
He's he says a lot of things. He's been getting a lot of attention in the media lately. So Das Williams, interesting enough, on my personal podcast, not affiliated with any media outlet, he said that he's going to support Kathy Murillo for mayor, and that was kind of interesting because we're like a year out from that, and it's a little bit of an effort, I think. What we're going to see with maybe the Dems trying to clear the field a little bit.
Oh, yeah, it's the one hack to another there. I mean, basically one party.
He didn't support her before, though. He supported Hal Conklin last time.
That was a personal thing. But she's the incumbent, and the party's going to go for it. And your friend James Joyce is going to have an interesting time of it, I think. What do you hear about Miss Deborah Schwartz? Is she going to run or not?
Yes.
She is running?
I've been told that by a lot of people who are close to her, so I would think so.
You agree with that, Josh? She's been.
Yeah, I hear she's running. Definitely, what the scenario that's playing out is all these people are going to run, and they're all going to split the vote, and Kathy Murillo is going to get reelected. It's kind of how things happen in Santa Barbara.
Because we don't have a runoff like every other.
Well, all the people who don't like Kathy, all trying to get their candidate to run. You're more viable. You're more viable. No, you can do it. You do it. Let's all do it. And then basic math, they all split. And then all of Kathy's supporters vote for her, and she gets elected. So
I don't know. I think it's going to be different, but that's just me.
And then our 27% mayor gets her 27%, and then she can represent a quarter of the people of Santa Barbara again. Not to put too fine a point on it. All right, thanks, guys. And congratulations, and thank you so much for being so accessible and putting your credibility here on the show for 100 episodes, which surprised me. And I thank you, and I know the viewers thank you as well. So stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time on Newsmakers, Journal of the Plague Year. Bye-bye.
thank you.
Bye.